The special guest for the night is gonna come talk to you guys a little bit. So, round of applause for Mr. Kadiro, please. Kadiro,
Hindagama hayyee duraan dursee namni asitti argamtan cufti keessan keessummoonni warri karaa fagoo irraa dhufu keessattuu Kadir Said akkasumas Abdii Fiixee baay'ee galatooma asirratti argamuun keessan waan akka malee guddaati asin dhuftanii waan nu jajjabeessaniif galata guddaa argadha yeroo tokko harkina rukutaaf. So I will be speaking like a mix of English and Oromo, and perhaps like 50 or 55% in Oromo and maybe 5% in Amharic and 40% in English. Yeah, I do mix so when I speak, so I do mix here as well. And I would like to thank in the first place this community for providing us with this beautiful facility without any payments, and I would like to thank Miss and Mr. Baumgartner here, and a big round of applause for them. And thank you everybody, the Oromo community members who just show up for this event and for just encouraging me, and another big round of applause for that. Wanni an dubbadu kun ni waan guddaadha eessa akka jalqabu hin beeku gidduma caccabsee seenaa namni na dura hedduu waan hedduu dubbatee jira Dr. Abdallah illee dubbatee jira obboleessi Dr. Ibrahim illee dubbatee jira Kadir Said illee bifa aartiitiin bifa akka malee kicaalama gammachee ta'een jedhee jira anammoo walaloo sullee hin beeku sirballee hin beeku duruma akkuma booranii duri nu barsiiskaan haasawaa sun afaan faranjii godhee malee waan birallee hin humne Yona min ko falchisnelle atlese kada morali here. I can't translate what I said in Oromo into English, but I will just try to make it similar. Abdi Fita is laughing at me here. He's a comedian. He's an excellent friend of mine. He understands what I want to say in English. But let me say something about my book. That is another comedy by itself. Kitab kana malif barreessitoon jettani kitabni kunini wanni keen hedduun hin beekamne wanni keen hin dagatamte hin dhufamte ani ni dandeetti wa barreessuu guddoo qabaadhe odoo hin taane yookaan beekumsi guddaa odoo qabaadhe hin taane waan keen namni bira malif barreessina nu waan keen malif hin barreessine jedhe barreesse kanaafuu dargaggeessi Oromoo kaaskee jiru namni wa barreessuu danda'u kasarar tokko barreessu ka paragraafi tokko barreessu ka argitanii keeyya tokko barreessuu danda'u yookaan ka waan tokko barreessuu danda'u isiniin cufti dandeettii guddaa qabdanii wa barreessaa aadaan durii ka akaakuuwwan kee maanguddootii hayyoonni keen afaan nutti himan sun jijjiiramuu qabdi wa barreessuu danda'uu qabna an sun barreessu malee wanni addaa wanni an barreessu hin jirtu sun naa beeka jechuudha. Having said that, let me say what I said in Oromo in English. So it's like, I decided to write about this book because there are so many said and unsaid stories about my people. There are some white friends of mine in here. Hannah is here, and a friend of Hannah is here, and some of them left. How many of you have you ever heard of the Oromo people? None of them. How many of you heard about the history of Ethiopia, a people of Judaic race, or like Judo-Christian? Everybody here. So, what I wanted to write about this history is, what I wanted to write about this book is, there is so much unsaid about the Oromo people. The Oromo people is one of the largest ethnic groups, the largest linguistic group in Africa. If you just speak, Africa has got like 54 countries. And if we put the Oromo nation as a country, the Oromo nation is the 12th largest country in terms of the population and in terms of the size of the land. We would have been like, in the rank of nations, 12 plus. In terms of the language, only Arabic languages, Arabic and Hausa language are the two languages bigger than the Oromo. We are the third largest language spoken in Africa. The Oromo have this indigenous Afro-Asiatic language called Afan Oromo. And none of them heard about that. Why? Why? Large nations, large area, big people, big country. Why a lot has not been said about the Oromo? And a lot of negativities has been said about their savagery, their barbarian manners, their unchristian natures, and their cruelties. Why? This is what I just want to find out and what I want to tell to the Western audience. And Ethiopia is a kind of very anomalous country. The way this nation formed is very unique within the African context. Because as Sena tried to indicate earlier, there are two independent countries in Africa, or two countries were not occupied by the Western. One is Liberia, obviously, because so many liberated African Americans went from here to that country to colonize the indigenous Liberians. And the other one is actually Ethiopia, because the Ethiopian emperors who just hailed from the Christian group managed to acquire this stockpile of modern European death machines in millions. Menelik has acquired by then 1 million rifles and 47 million ammunitions, which helped him to conquer areas like the Oromo nation, the Kambata, Kafa, Hadia. So because of this Western military support and excess of modern war machines, he managed to conquer the Oromo nation, the most peaceful group in Africa, with this killing them in millions. According to the widespread European travelers' account, they saw the mountains of the people, and mountains of bones, skeletons, flesh, dead bodies of the innocent Oromos who wanted simply to defend the way of life and the country and the freedom against the Abyssinian invading army who wanted the resources, not the people. This is a kind of untold brutalities and history we have in that part of Africa. And this is a kind of the brutalities that the Western countries, in particular the United States, sustained for the last century, believing that the Christian group, the conquerors, are the civilized, the superior, the one closer to the white race, called the Caucasians. They provided American taxpayers money for these brutal dictators who just conquered the Oromos at a gunpoint and sustained the rule for a century and 20 years using the same means without need to just ameliorate their brutal dictatorship. And that is the history that I wanted to tell to the Western countries, especially to the Americans. Make your government accountable to the tax money you are paying. Just ask them. America is a great nation, a country founded by people who just revolted against the British colonial yoke to give us this wonderful nation. But the same America, the irony, the same America who is a symbol of the emancipation, the freedom, liberation, a country founded by Declaration of Independence and by Constitution and by Bill of Rights, supported such inhuman military dictatorship in our country, which is bringing this untold brutalities and untold, savagery and human rights violation to the innocent Africans who are doing nothing but trying to see the land in harmony with them, trying to see the flourishing of the culture. So this is the kind of the thing that I want to write in this book. And this is the kind of the thing that I'm telling to the American audience. To exemplify this position, let me say this. Ethiopia and the United States established their relationship in 1903, 100 years ago. 100 years ago. By then, a year earlier in 1902, a group of Oromo refugees who were displaced from the country came to this country. And the Oromos were just killed in a large numbers, in millions, according to European travelers. Somebody just put the estimate, some of the travelers put at 5 million. I mean, like, it was an industrial scale of massacring, killing, torturing, and annihilation, and eviction, and untold savagery. But when the United States diplomat said, this is something that God wanted, he said, the savagery has been conquered, and Abyssinia is going to flourish. And he said, this is the symbol, the sign said in the Bible, the prophecy that Ethiopia shall set her first unto Lord. And this is the misconception that the Americans had about my people. The people who were killed, displaced from their territories, who contributed one of the most indigenous African civilizations. The people who invented the Ghana system, where everybody is a part of the democratic fabric of the society, where everybody has this right of electing for the office and recalling. The people who just love nature. When you just meet each other, for example, when you are a Muslim, you say Assalamu alaikum, which is blessing on you. And then you have to just say a peace upon the Prophet. But the Oromo's concept of peace goes much bigger than the Christian or the Islam concept of God. We are the people who are just created for the sake of promoting harmony between a human being and nature. We in Oromo pray for the health and wealth and peace and harmony of everything, be it living things or non-living things. In Oromo we say, Bobbaan nagaa, galtii nagaa, galchumii nagaa, dhaltii nagaa, gubbaan nagaa, guyyaan nagaa, dubartiin nagaa, muki nagaa, gaarii nagaa, obaan nagaa. We say peace for everything. Rivers are blessed, the mountains, the trees, the cows, the woman, the night, the day, the morning, the evening. You know, you just mentioned, you name it. The Oromos are, such a peace-loving, harmonious people who just never try to just kill or annihilate the neighbors, unless and otherwise nature dictated them to act so. And these are the people whom the British anthropologist Paul Baxter called the people flowing with a blessing rivers, because they say the Oromos, whenever they start, the greeting, for example, in our language is Naga when you depart, Naga when you come, Naga when you sleep, Naga. It's a people of Naga, peace, 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 peace. Like the old concept of Shalom in Judaism, Jerusalem. In our country, Nagele, we have this name, the peaceful, our land. We like our mountains, we don't cut trees. And when the European death machine come to that part of the continent, for example, the Christian part is dry, very much like used mountains, no trees. And when they came to the Oromo countries, we have this culture of venerating the nature and the rivers and the water and the trees, and we don't cut any tree. Trees, we say, if there are no trees, Borana, particularly where I came from, my parents are from RC, but I was brought and raised in a Borana part of the Oromo. And the Borana people say, Gaf salam badu salibad, gaf margibat, okam okembat, korimbat. The Borana say, when there are no, I translate into English as much as I can, let me try. When there are no trees, there are no people. When there are no wildlife, there are no domestic animals. Which means in Oromo cycle, in Oromo understanding of life, we just have this cycle whereby the well-being and the peace and the harmony of our people depends on the nature. We don't think about our cows without our hyenas, because hyenas have such a great value in Oromo tradition. We don't think of ourselves without our trees. And you know, when the Europeans came to our country was very, very great. And one of the European travelers of the day, the Salviac of the French Catholic missionary, he said, this is a country flowing with honey and milk, a country where there is no need. He said, if there is such a biblical country called the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Eden is in Oromo land. And the other mercenary which helped Milik to conquer our country, he said, I was mistaken. I just helped them to conquer these wonderful people who did not have a culture of stealing because there is no need for doing that. And a people of such a wonderful character and such modern way of life and Pacific way of life. So this is some of the stories which were never told at global scale as the Europeans try to distort and present our people as the savage, filthy, heathen, unpatriotic, backward, and whatever label you have it. But they try to present others, the conquerors, as the civilized, modern, polite, Caucasian, while in fact there is no that much physical difference or color difference or complexion difference between us. Actually, we are, you can't tell the difference between me and a certain Abyssinian or Habesha girl or man. So the kind of story that I want to tell in this book is a story of a guy who is trying to speak from the viewpoint of marginalization, from the viewpoint of subjugation, and from the viewpoint of the people whose resources were stolen, a people whose history were usurped, a people who convinced that they are inferior. We are trying to break that barrier, saying that we had such glorious past, glorious history, and a wonderful culture. And I'm not only speaking from the viewpoint of somebody who's marginalized, but I'm trying to assert that we are the legitimate custodians of the African tradition, and we are a people who are, by the virtue of our population, by the virtue of our culture, by the virtue of the Oromo people, big understanding of the world around them, by the virtue of the passion and compassion of the Oromo, to the extent of living in harmony with nature, that we have to be like the pioneers and the leaders of that part of Africa. And United States people and politicians has to just rectify the wrong attitude about the Horn of Africa. We, the Oromo nation, we are more than 40 million, which is one of the biggest ethnic groups